Before the storm, asterisk asterisk Clara Bennett, asterisk asterisk, lived a quiet, enviable life in London. A small apartment in Camden, filled with books, a job in public relations, friends who made her laugh. She didn't crave fireworks, just someone steady, kind, and safe. Then came asterisk asterisk Nathan Hale, asterisk asterisk. He wasn't loud or possessive. He listened, remembered details, quoted poetry. He seemed like the antidote to chaos. The kind of man who says, asterisk, you make me calm, asterisk, and she believed him. The first cracks were almost invisible. He teased her for laughing too loudly with male colleagues, asterisk, you're different around them, asterisk. He offered to pick her up after work, asterisk. It's dangerous at night, asterisk. He complimented her, then added, asterisk, that dress is too much for you. I like when you're natural, asterisk. Each comment sounded caring, but together they formed a pattern, correction disguised as affection. Soon, she stopped going out with friends. When her phone lit up, he sighed. They don't get us. He never forbade her to leave. He simply made her feel guilty when she did. That's how control works when it's clever. It doesn't shout. It times, suggests, asterisk. Her confidence thinned. She started second-guessing messages at work, worried he'd call her abrasive. She learned to apologize before speaking. When he criticized her tone, she softened it. When he withdrew affection, she begged for it back. Each compromise felt small until she realized she'd stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror. Nathan was not violent. That made it worse. He was charming, articulate, and gentle in public. He spoke of love with gravity, of protecting her from stress. Friends admired him, so when she tried to describe her unease, she sounded ungrateful. How could anyone believe that kindness could cage? One night, she found a list on his phone. Every dinner he'd paid for, every gift, every sacrifice. Next to her name, a single word, asterisk, asterisk, inconsistent, asterisk, asterisk. Something inside her froze. She saw herself as he did, an entry in his private ledger of ownership. That night, she didn't leave. Almost nobody does. She began to times measure. Asterisk. She wrote down his phrases, the gaslighting, the guilt, the shifts between tenderness and silence. It wasn't journaling. It was evidence, proof that she wasn't losing her mind. Here's what most people don't understand. Emotional abuse isn't always a storm. It's a slow rearranging of truth. You begin to think the cage is protection, that obedience is love, and society applauds your patience. Clara wasn't weak. She was conditioned to please, to smooth conflict, to take up less space. That's what many women are taught, to equate love with endurance, silence with virtue. If you truly want to understand women, understand this. The world teaches them to disappear gracefully, to negotiate their own erasure, to smile while suffocating. Clara's story is not unique. It is the anatomy of thousands of quiet prisons built from affection, fear, and habit. And the first step toward freedom begins with a single question. Asterisk, asterisk, if this is love, why do I feel smaller every day? Asterisk, asterisk. Control doesn't always come with shouting. Sometimes it comes with time's logic. Asterisk. That's how Nathan kept Clara tethered through words so reasonable they left no room for rebellion. At first, it sounded like love's language. Asterisk. You're overthinking. You worry too much. I never said that. Asterisk. Each phrase chipped at her memory, at her sense of what was real. Soon, she began to doubt her own eyes. When she confronted him about a cruel remark he made, he smiled softly. Is greater than, you're too sensitive. I was joking. Is greater than, You always twist my words. Gaslighting doesn't destroy reality all at once. It erodes it, grain by grain. It replaces facts with confusion, emotion with apology. You start defending yourself for feeling anything at all. Clara began replaying conversations in her head, searching for proof she wasn't crazy. She'd whisper to herself, he did say that, didn't he? But when she tried to explain her pain, Nathan looked wounded. Is greater than, I can't believe you think I'd ever hurt you. I do everything for us. That's how gaslighting couples with guilt manipulation. First, he makes you doubt your truth. Then he punishes you for questioning his. When she cried, he sighed. You always make me feel like a monster. When she went silent, he frowned. See, you're punishing me now. Every emotion she expressed turned against her. Every attempt to defend herself became evidence of cruelty. This is the abuser's genius. They rewrite the script, so you start apologizing for being mistreated. Clara began to believe she was the problem. Maybe she really did mishear. Maybe she was too emotional. She started saying sorry before she even knew why. The word became her safety spell if she apologized fast enough. Maybe he'd love her again. That's what gaslighting does. It breaks the link between times, reality, and reaction. You can't trust your memory, your instincts, or your anger. You stop asking, is this wrong? And start asking, am I overreacting? In therapy, this is called cognitive dissonance trauma. The brain cannot reconcile affection and cruelty, so it shuts down logic to preserve the illusion of love. The victim becomes addicted to moments of peace, mistaking them for healing. Nathan learned her patterns well. When she was exhausted, he became gentle. When she grew distant, he'd whisper, I hate when we fight. He'd kiss her forehead, say, let's start over. And she would, because when the storm clears, even briefly, the quiet feels like salvation, but the cycle always returns. One evening, Clara told him she was thinking of visiting her family for the weekend. His smile froze. His greater than, I thought we planned to rest together. Why are you avoiding me? Is greater than. She tried to explain, but the guilt in his voice turned her resolve to sand. Is greater than, if you go, it'll feel like you're leaving me when I need you most. So she stayed. Again, and he won, without raising his voice, without issuing a command. That's how psychological abuse hides. In the calm tone, the well-timed sigh, the accusation whispered as love. Gaslighting is not about lies, it's about power. It's about stealing your right to your own perception, until you look to your oppressor for the truth about your own mind. When Clara finally realized that peace in their home only existed when she surrendered, she stopped calling it peace. She called it what it was. Control with good manners. If you've ever felt guilty for defending your truth, listen closely. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining things. You are standing in the fog that someone else carefully built. And the only way out of that fog is to stop asking for permission to see. Abusers know that control is fragile when exposed to light. So the first thing they do is draw the curtains around you. Slowly, lovingly, convincingly. Nathan never said the words don't see your friends. He didn't have to. He built the circle of isolation, brick by brick, disguised as care. It began with small sighs. When Clara mentioned meeting her old colleague for lunch, he smiled thinly. Is greater than, you're always so tired after those lunches. They drain your energy. Is greater than she canceled. Once, then again. Later came subtle comparisons. Is greater than, Camille doesn't really understand relationships. She's too cynical. Is greater than, your sister's nice, but she meddles too much. Is greater than. Each phrase felt protective. But what Nathan was really saying was, asterisk, they're threats to my control. Asterisk, and in time, Clara believed him. Because isolation never feels like exile. It feels like loyalty. Weeks blurred. She stopped texting first. Invitations dwindled. Her friends, tired of the one-sided effort, drifted away. When they did reach out, she hesitated, afraid of the tension that would follow if Nathan saw their names on her phone. He never yelled. He simply went quiet. An hour. A day. That silence heavy, deliberate hurt more than any argument. She'd try to fix it. Asterisk. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gone out. Asterisk. And when he finally smiled again, it felt like forgiveness. That's how isolation traps you. It asterisk rewards obedience with peace. Over time, their apartment stopped feeling like home. It felt like time's territory. Asterisk, every room was marked by his preferences. The music, the curtains, the food, the schedule. He wanted her safe at home. He wanted her focused on them. He wanted her world to shrink until the only mirror she saw herself in was his gaze. When she mentioned missing her friends, he'd sigh. Is greater than, they don't respect us. They want you single again. Is greater than, people envy what we have. Is greater than. The words wrapped around her like a cocoon and a noose. The fewer people she spoke to, the less she trusted her own perception. That's the real purpose of isolation. Asterisk, to replace the external world with the abuser's version of reality. Asterisk. Her sister noticed the change. You sound muted, she said over the phone. Clara laughed. I'm just tired. Tired was easier than saying time's lonely. Asterisk. Easier than explaining that she felt surrounded by love, yet utterly alone inside it. Nathan monitored her social media, never outright, just casually. Is greater than, you still follow that ex-colleague? Odd. Is greater than, she deleted the account a week later. Is greater than freedom. One click at a time. Surrendered without a fight. Isolation isn't just about people. It's about asterisk choices. Asterisk. He made her feel small for buying a new dress. Asterisk. You're trying to impress someone? Asterisk. She stopped dressing up. He called her dull. Asterisk. You've lost your spark. Asterisk. And she believed him, not realizing he'd stolen the very light he now accused her of lacking. In clinical terms, this phase is called asterisk, social constriction. Asterisk, a deliberate tightening of a victim's social network to reduce feedback and increase dependence. It's how cults work, how dictatorships survive, how an abuser turns a thinking, feeling partner into a loyal subject. When a victim loses their community, they lose their time's reality anchors. Asterisk. Every doubt echoes back to the abuser's voice. Every fear finds its confirmation in their eyes. Isolation is a silent weapon because it works in daylight. No one intervenes when a woman chooses her partner over friends. Society romanticizes it, calls it devotion, maturity, true love. But what they call devotion is often asterisk, domesticated loneliness. Asterisk. One Sunday afternoon, Clara scrolled through old photos, birthdays, road trips, laughter. She couldn't remember when those smiles had stopped. Nathan looked over her shoulder. Is greater than, you were so different back then, he said softly. Is greater than, immature, you've grown since being with me. Something in her chest snapped. Not loudly, just a quiet inner fracture, like glass cracking under heat. She realized growth shouldn't feel like disappearance. That night, when he fell asleep, she texted Camille for the first time in months. The message was short. Asterisk, can we meet? Asterisk, no explanation, no apology, just 3 words. It was her first act of rebellion and her first act of recovery. That is the cruel elegance of isolation. It never announces itself. It comes wrapped in affection, sealed with good intentions, and praised by those who can't see its walls. But once you recognize it, the entire illusion collapses. You start to see the architecture. How control hides in care. How love becomes surveillance. How freedom slips away in exchange for peace. And you begin to fight not with screams, but with small acts of reconnection. A text, a visit, a conversation whispered in secret, because every voice you reclaim from the silence is a step out of captivity. And sometimes, the first person you need to call back is yourself. Control is rarely declared. It's negotiated in whispers, cloaked in generosity, disguised as love. Nathan never said, asterisk, I own you. Asterisk, he said, asterisk, let me take care of you. Asterisk. It sounded like affection, stability, security, maturity. But underneath that promise lived a truth as old as patriarchy itself. Asterisk, asterisk. Whoever controls the resources controls the relationship. Asterisk, asterisk. It started when Nathan offered to handle the rent. Is greater than, you work so hard, Clara. Let me ease your load. Is greater than. She hesitated, but he smiled that calm, confident smile. Is greater than, don't be proud. You'd do the same for me. It was presented as kindness. It was, in fact, a purchase. Each favor became a quiet debt. A few months later, she mentioned wanting to buy a new coat. Is greater than, you don't need that one, he said lightly. It's not worth the money. Is greater than. The comment lingered. The next time, she hesitated before reaching for her card. Is greater than a subtle flinch. That's how ownership begins times in hesitation. Asterisk. Over time, Clara's finances became blurry. Nathan managed their expenses. He encouraged her to quit her stressful job. Is greater than, you're burning out, he said. Stay home for a while. I'll take care of us. Is greater than, and she believed him, because exhaustion and love make a potent mix. For a while, it even felt good, like surrendering to safety, until she realized that every freedom she'd traded now had an asterisk price tag. Asterisk. Control doesn't stop at money. It extends to the body. Nathan's affection became conditional, a reward system disguised as intimacy. After arguments, he would go distant. No touch, no warmth, no eye contact. When she apologized, he would soften. Is greater than, see, we're fine now. That's asterisk intermittent reinforcement. Asterisk, the same mechanism that keeps gamblers glued to slot machines. The unpredictability hooks you harder than cruelty ever could. Sex became a test of loyalty. If she refused, he'd sigh. Is greater than, you always pull away when I need closeness. Is greater than. If she agreed, he'd whisper after, is greater than, you're mine again. Is greater than. It wasn't passion. It was proof of submission. Abusers use sex to measure obedience, to blur the line between intimacy and ownership. And because Clara still believed in love, she mistook possession for desire. Money, sex, time, all became part of the same invisible economy. Nathan was the banker, Clara the debtor. When she resisted, he reminded her of his sacrifices. Is greater than, I pay the bills. Is greater than, I gave up my weekend for you. Is greater than, do you even appreciate everything I do? Each statement was an invoice disguised as virtue. That's how guilt becomes a currency of control. The victim spends her self-worth repaying debts that don't exist. Clara stopped buying small pleasures, a book, a coffee, a train ticket to see her family, because every expenditure carried a moral tax. Even her free time was monitored. Is greater than, "You're selfish with your energy," he said once, when she wanted to spend an evening alone. Soon, she couldn't tell where gratitude ended and servitude began. In psychoanalytic terms, this is *** instrumental control, ***, turning affection and resources into tools for dominance. The abuser acts as provider, not from love, but from a hunger for validation. The partner's dependence feeds their illusion of superiority. This is why abusers hate autonomy. They crave a partner who times needs times them, not one who times chooses times them. When Clara started freelance work again, Nathan's smile thinned. Is greater than, "It's good you're staying busy," he said. "But don't let it come between us." Is greater than. She could feel the threat behind the kindness. Independence was treason. He began undermining her confidence. Is greater than, "Clients can be harsh." "Are you sure you can handle it?" Is greater than. He wanted her to fail, not because he hated her success, but because her success made her harder to control. One evening, Clara found an old notebook from her university days, a budget planner filled with dreams and numbers. Each page smelled of autonomy, of the woman she'd been before love became a ledger. She stared at her own handwriting and whispered, "Is greater than, I used to buy myself flowers." That sentence broke her heart, because now she wouldn't dare. That's when she finally saw the pattern. Nathan had built a system where times everything she received came with an invisible receipt, money, touch, praise. Each gift was a leash. Financial control is one of the most underestimated forms of abuse. It doesn't bruise the body, it starves the will. It creates a dependency so deep that leaving feels like homelessness, even if you still have a roof over your head. And when you try to explain it, people smile and say, "He's just protective." Society romanticizes male provision, while ignoring the power imbalance it conceals. They tell women to be grateful for men who take care of everything, but they never ask what those men take times in return. The awakening came quietly. Nathan transferred money into their shared account, then joked, "Is greater than, you'd be lost without me." Is greater than, and she smiled out of habit, not warmth. That night, she opened a hidden spreadsheet and began documenting everything she earned, spent, and saved. It wasn't rebellion. It was proof of existence. Every number was a small declaration. I am still here. That's the next hidden benefit of not marrying too early. You keep your economic and bodily autonomy intact. Long enough to see how power hides inside generosity. When you build independence before binding your life to someone else's finances, you develop an instinct, a quiet radar that detects when care turns into control. You learn that real love doesn't manage you. It trusts you, because love that demands your dependence isn't love, it's investment, waiting for obedience as the return. Every manipulator eventually learns the oldest trick in the book. If you can't be the hero, become the victim. Nathan mastered this art like it was religion. By now, Clara had begun to resist, not in confrontation, but in silence. She stopped explaining herself, started keeping small secrets, reading in bed after he slept, messaging Camille again, thinking for herself. Freedom was taking root, quietly, and Nathan felt it. Control cannot survive without the illusion of moral superiority. So, he did what many abusers do when their authority begins to slip. He flipped the script. One morning, after an argument about her work, he sighed, "Is greater than, you've changed. You used to be so kind, so gentle. What happened to you? It was the perfect attack. Sorrow instead of rage. Guilt instead of threat. Clara felt the familiar pang, shame, confusion, self-doubt. Because when the abuser plays the victim, your empathy becomes their weapon. You rush to comfort the very person who broke you. Is greater than, I didn't mean to upset you, she murmured. Is greater than, you never mean to, he said softly. But you do. And just like that, she was back under his control, apologizing for his pain. The next step came in public. At dinners with friends, Nathan would tell small stories that humiliated her gently. Is greater than, Clara's been distant lately. I think she's under stress. I try my best, but you know how sensitive she can be. Is greater than laughter. Sympathy. Everyone saw a devoted boyfriend struggling with a moody partner. No one saw the trap. Later, when she confronted him, he smiled. Is greater than, you have no sense of humor anymore. Is greater than, I was just being honest. This is how social gaslighting works. He built a narrative that preemptively discredited her. If she ever exposed him, she'd sound hysterical, vindictive, or unstable. The victim flip works because society believes calm voices over trembling ones. When Clara began pulling away, he grew fragile. He spoke about his childhood neglect, loneliness, the pain of never being understood. He cried. She held him. Is greater than, I act out because I'm afraid of losing you, he whispered. Is greater than, I just need you to love me through my damage. And she did. Because women are taught to be healers, to see brokenness and call it potential, but compassion in the hands of a manipulator becomes *** currency, ***. The more she gave, the more he demanded. Her empathy became his alibi. Every apology she offered erased another scar from his conscience and carved a new one into hers. In psychoanalytic terms, this tactic is called *** projective reversal, ***, a form of narcissistic defense. When the abuser's image of themselves as good is threatened, they transfer guilt to the victim. The pattern always looks the same. The abuser feels accused, becomes tearful, righteous, wounded. The victim feels guilty, apologizes, withdraws, or comforts. The abuser regains control, peace restored, until the next cycle. It's a self-perpetuating loop. Cruelty disguised as fragility. Dominance hidden in the language of pain. Society loves a repentant man. A man who tries, who has trauma, who means well. Meanwhile, women who speak of their pain are labeled dramatic, ungrateful, hysterical. When Clara confided in a friend, the response was predictable. Is greater than, he sounds complicated, but he clearly loves you. Is greater than, maybe he's just insecure. Is greater than, don't give up on someone who's hurting. Each well-meaning word drove the knife deeper, because no one saw that his tears were strategic, his vulnerability selective. He was not broken, he was *** performing brokenness, *** to keep her chained. It ended on a quiet evening. They were arguing softly, tiredly, about something trivial. She said, **, you make me feel invisible. He froze, then whispered, **, you don't know how cruel that sounds. **. Tears welled in his eyes. Real or not, they worked. For the first time, however, she didn't rush to comfort him. She just watched, detached. And in that silence, something irreversible happened. She saw the machinery behind the performance. Every apology, every tear, every trembling confession. It was all part of the same architecture of control. He wasn't crying for her. He was crying for the loss of his power. That night, Clara sat on the balcony, the city glowing faintly below. For years, she had feared being the bad one and say shid with so Verd and Rassen. Now she realized He needed times her to believe she was. That was his leash. She whispered to herself, asterisk, I can't save him. I can only stop drowning with him. Asterisk. And for the first time, she didn't feel cruel for thinking it. She felt sane. That's the fifth hidden benefit, of not marrying early. You learn to see the manipulation of guilt for what it is. A transfer of responsibility disguised as love. When you've lived long enough on your own, you develop the strength to spot emotional theater. You learn that someone's tears aren't always truth. You learn that compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. Love should never make you beg for forgiveness for existing. And when it does, it's not love. It's a con dressed in sincerity. So if you ever find yourself apologizing to someone for their cruelty, stop. You are not the villain in their story. You are the witness they fear the most. If control is a prison, intermittent reinforcement, is the music that keeps the prisoner dancing. It is the most insidious weapon in emotional abuse because it disguises torment as love, punishment as passion, cruelty as care. Nathan was not cruel every day. That was the secret to his power. If he had been consistently unkind, Clara would have left, but he wasn't. He was unpredictable. And unpredictability, to the human brain, is irresistible. He could go from distant to tender in a heartbeat. After days of silence, he would bring her coffee in bed, kiss her hair, whisper, is greater than, I don't know what I'd do without you. The contrast hit like a drug. Her heart flooded with relief, gratitude, longing. That moment of affection erased a week of coldness. And that's how abusers make you stay ***. They let you taste the love you keep starving for. ***. Every outburst became survivable because she believed in the comeback. Every insult was softened by a later embrace. Every wound healed just enough for her to endure the next cut. This is how psychological conditioning works. The victim learns to associate pain with anticipation and silence with suspense. You wait for the good version of them to return. The one who used to hold you, protect you, adore you. And when they do, even briefly, you feel chosen again. Saved. B.F. Skinner, the behavioral psychologist, called this pattern times variable reinforcement. It's the same mechanism used in gambling, social media, even cults. When rewards are unpredictable, the brain releases more dopamine, not less. The uncertainty itself becomes addictive. Clara didn't love Nathan's cruelty. She loved the relief that followed it. That chemical high after despair. That fleeting moment when she thought, he's back. It's okay now. But the man she waited for didn't exist anymore. He was a mirage, appearing only when she broke enough to deserve him. After each argument, he'd return like a penitent saint. Flowers, gentle words, sometimes even tears. Is greater than, I hate when we fight. Is greater than, you're the only one who makes me feel real. He'd stroke her cheek, and for a few hours, she'd feel like the heroine of a film redeemed, needed, safe. But it was never safety, it was the reset of the cycle. The next day, a look, a sigh, a small criticism would send her back into panic. She'd analyze every word, replay every gesture, desperate to avoid the next freeze-out. Love became labor. Affection became a currency she earned by perfect behavior. And the more she worked for it, the less she received. Every reconciliation felt like growth. He'd say, we're learning from our mistakes. But the pattern didn't change it, just deepened. That's the brilliance of intermittent control. It mimics healing. You think you're getting better together, but you're just being trained to settle for peace after pain. Real love doesn't need to break you to prove itself. But the abused mind doesn't know that. It mistakes survival for devotion. Clara began to experience what therapists call times trauma bonding. Asterisk. Her nervous system was on constant alert, heart racing when he was angry, then euphoric when he was kind. Her body became the battleground where his moods played out. She couldn't eat properly, couldn't sleep deeply. She lived in rhythm with his emotions, like a tide that never rested. When people asked if she was okay, she smiled. Is greater than, we're just going through a phase. Is greater than, but inside, her body knew the truth. This wasn't love. It was captivity, dressed as chemistry. One night, after another explosive argument, followed by a tender apology, she noticed something strange as he held her, whispering asterisk, I love you, I love you. Asterisk, she felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, just emptiness. The same words that once melted her now echoed hollow in her chest. It terrified her, because that was the moment the addiction began to die. Every survivor of emotional abuse describes this silence, the point where the highs no longer feel worth the lows, where your body, wiser than your heart, begins to detach to save itself. That's not weakness. That's instinct reclaiming command. The hardest addiction to break isn't love, it's asterisk, asterisk, hope, asterisk, asterisk. Hope that he will change. Hope that your pain has purpose. Hope that the good moments mean something. But hope, in an abusive relationship, is the chain that binds. It's the promise that keeps you from walking away. Nathan didn't need to lock the door. He just needed to convince Clara that tomorrow would be different. And so, she stayed one more day, one more chance, one more illusion, until the illusions lost their sweetness, and she could finally taste the poison behind them. That's the asterisk, asterisk, sixth hidden benefit, asterisk, asterisk, of not marrying too early. You learn to recognize the asterisk, asterisk difference between consistency and intensity. Asterisk, asterisk. Immature love feels like fireworks, bright, loud, thrilling. Mature love feels like sunrise, steady, unremarkable, dependable. Those who rush into commitment before they've learned that difference mistake volatility for passion, apologies for growth, chaos for depth. But when you've lived long enough to see how emotional inconsistency erodes your sense of self, you stop craving adrenaline. You start craving peace. Because love isn't supposed to keep you guessing. It's supposed to keep you safe. No abuser operates alone. Behind every manipulator stands a silent accomplice, asterisk, asterisk, society itself, asterisk, asterisk, a culture that rewards endurance more than self-respect, that calls obedience love and suffering strength. Clara didn't just fight Nathan. She fought the world that told her to times understand times him. When she confided in her mother, she heard, is greater than, all couples have problems. Men just take longer to mature. When she spoke to her therapist, the woman smiled gently, is greater than, you sound very emotional right now. Maybe wait before making big decisions. And when she told her friends, the responses varied between pity and disbelief. Is greater than, he seems like such a good guy. Is greater than, maybe you're both toxic for each other. Every word, a small stone reinforcing the wall around her. Everyone meant well, but their advice came from the same poisoned well of social conditioning. Society does not understand emotional abuse because it has been asterisk, asterisk, trained to excuse it. Asterisk, asterisk. When a man is angry, he's called passionate. When a woman is angry, she's called unstable. When a man withdraws, he's taking space. When a woman withdraws, she's cold. This is how culture itself gaslights victims. It twists gender norms into defense mechanisms for abusers. Nathan's quiet superiority fit perfectly into the archetype of the reasonable man. He was calm, articulate, respected. He didn't yell, he times explained. Asterisk. And the world always trusts the explainer over the emotional. So when Clara cried, when she stumbled through her pain, people saw hysteria, not trauma. That's the cruel paradox. Asterisk asterisk. The more wounded you are, the less credible you seem. Asterisk asterisk. Even institutions meant to protect her failed her. When she once called a counselor specializing in relationship dynamics, she was told, is greater than, it doesn't sound like abuse if he hasn't hit you. That sentence stayed with her, because that's what so many victims hear. The denial wrapped in technicality. No bruises, no case. But emotional abuse is not less damaging because it's invisible. In fact, it's more insidious precisely because times it leaves no trace that others can see. Victims don't arrive at shelters bleeding. They arrive asterisk, asterisk, doubting their own sanity. Asterisk, asterisk. And the system is not built to believe the invisible. There's a reason victims stay silent. Not only fear, but shame. Because society still teaches women that the success of a relationship defines their worth. When it fails, they don't just lose love, they lose identity, validation, social acceptance. Clara saw this clearly when she tried to leave the first time. Is greater than, are you sure you're not overreacting? Her friend asked. Is greater than, he's a good man. You're just both under pressure. And Clara, already disoriented by months of gaslighting, began to wonder maybe she was overreacting. This is how abuse sustains itself. Asterisk, asterisk. Through collective doubt. Asterisk, asterisk. Each bystander who minimizes, each friend who urges patience, becomes a brick in the fortress of silence. Nathan knew this too. He was the charming one at parties, the man who helped neighbors carry groceries, who complimented strangers with impeccable timing. Everyone loved him. Everyone believed in him. So when he subtly degraded Clara in public, a small joke, a correction, a patronizing smile, people laughed. They didn't see abuse. They saw a couple with quirky chemistry. And when she looked hurt, he'd brush her shoulder and murmur, is greater than, don't take it so seriously, love. The audience smiled, reassured. The mask remained intact. Abusers thrive in public. Their cruelty needs witnesses who don't understand what they're watching. This is not just about Clara and Nathan. It's about a asterisk, asterisk, social epidemic, asterisk, asterisk, that teaches women to make themselves small and men to mistake dominance for affection. It's the fairy tales that equate persistence with love, the films that romanticize jealousy as devotion, the songs that praise women who stay no matter what. We raise girls to believe that love is proven by endurance, and then we wonder why they stay with men who destroy them slowly. Clara's awakening didn't come from rebellion. It came from observation. She saw a coworker being humiliated by her husband at a dinner party. The same smirk, the same subtle dismissal she'd lived through countless times, and no one said a word. They laughed politely, changed the subject. That's when Clara realized silence isn't neutrality, it's complicity. That is the asterisk, asterisk, seventh hidden benefit. Asterisk, asterisk, of not marrying early. You gain time to see asterisk, asterisk, how society conditions your compassion against yourself. Asterisk, asterisk. When you live long enough as an independent woman, you learn to recognize the scripts. The friend who tells you to be patient. The therapist who tells you to stay calm. The world that tells you to forgive. You stop mistaking politeness for wisdom. You learn that empathy without awareness becomes submission, and you begin to understand that the only permission you ever needed was your own. Because love that demands your silence is not noble. It is rot dressed as virtue. And the day you refuse to protect your abuser's reputation is the day you start protecting your own life. Number Chapter 8. The escape from awakening to action. Leaving is not a moment. It is a process. A slow, trembling rebirth that begins long before the door ever opens. By the time Clara left Nathan, she had already escaped 1,000 times in her mind. Every night she imagined it, packing a bag, walking out, breathing air that didn't belong to him. But imagination is not yet freedom. For victims of hidden emotional abuse, asterisk, asterisk escape is not a sprint. It's a series of strategic awakenings, and each stage is both terrifying and sacred. Asterisk, asterisk. Stage 1. Awareness. The cracking of the spell. Asterisk, asterisk. It began quietly, almost invisibly. Clara stopped defending him in her thoughts. When he gaslighted her, she didn't argue. She just noted it. When he called her ungrateful, she didn't apologize. She watched him, like a scientist observing a specimen. That's the first step of awakening. Asterisk, asterisk. You detach emotionally before you act physically. Asterisk, asterisk. You begin to see patterns instead of exceptions. You start labeling behaviors, gaslighting, guilt manipulation, isolation, and each label steals a bit of their power. Naming is reclaiming. It's the moment the fog thins enough for you to see the bars of the cage, and once you see them, you cannot unsee them. Abusers feed on dependency. So, escape begins with quiet independence, the kind that doesn't announce itself. Clara started saving money, a little at a time. Small transfers, hidden receipts. She reconnected with her sister, reactivated her old email, contacted a lawyer she trusted. She began to document everything, screenshots, notes, dates, not out of revenge, but for protection. Because, in a world that doubts victims, evidence becomes armor. She practiced small acts of defiance. Asterisk, walking outside without explaining where she was going. Asterisk, turning off her phone for an hour. Asterisk, saying no and watching what happened. Each act was a rehearsal for freedom. Preparation isn't cowardice, it's wisdom. Because leaving an abuser isn't just about courage. It's about asterisk, asterisk, strategy. Asterisk, asterisk. It wasn't cinematic. No shouting, no suitcases thrown. Just a quiet morning, pale light filtering through the curtains. Nathan was in the shower. She picked up her small suitcase, the same one from the beginning, and walked to the door. Her heart hammered. Her hands shook. Fear whispered, asterisk. What if he changes now? Hope whispered, asterisk. Maybe this time he means it. Asterisk. But beneath them both came a third voice, steady, calm, undeniable. Asterisk. You have already given enough chances. She turned the handle, and for the first time in years, she didn't ask permission to exist. Leaving is not the end. It is the beginning of detox, because after emotional captivity, silence feels unbearable. She expected peace. Instead, she felt withdrawal. Her body missed the rhythm of chaos, the daily chase for affection, the familiar dance of reward and punishment. This is trauma, bonding at its purest, the body grieving the very thing that destroyed it. At night, she almost called him. Not because she wanted him back, but because she didn't know who she was without him. The absence of control feels like emptiness until you fill it with selfhood again. Healing begins when you stop mistaking loneliness for loss. Freedom is not found in one grand act. It is built in small, sacred routines. Clara started therapy again. This time, with someone who understood coercive control. She forced herself to eat regularly, to walk, to breathe. Each act, mundane and ordinary, was an act of resistance. She made a rule. Asterisk, asterisk. No explanations. Asterisk, asterisk. When people asked what happened, she didn't justify. She said, simply, asterisk, I left. Asterisk. Because survivors do not owe the world their trauma report. They owe themselves their peace. Over time, she began to laugh again, not politely, not cautiously, but freely. Her body, once tense and guarded, softened. She decorated her new apartment with plants and light symbols of growth that required no permission. Nathan, of course, tried to rewrite the story. He called her cold, ungrateful, unstable. And some believed him. That's what abusers do. They build new audiences once the old ones stop applauding. But she no longer needed to correct the record, because once you escape the cage, you realize something profound. Asterisk, asterisk, truth doesn't need believers. It only needs witnesses. Asterisk, asterisk, and she was her own witness now. Every survivor eventually understands this paradox. You don't escape when you walk away. You escape when you asterisk, asterisk, stop negotiating your worth. Asterisk, asterisk. It's not the door that saves you. It's the decision. It's the refusal to justify, to explain, to shrink. Clara's story isn't just about leaving a man. It's about reclaiming a universe. Her time, her peace, her reflection in the mirror. This is the asterisk, asterisk, eighth hidden benefit, asterisk, asterisk, of not marrying too early. You gain time to asterisk, asterisk. Build a life strong enough to leave when necessary. Asterisk, asterisk. Too many people are trapped, not because they lack love, but because they lack infrastructure. No savings, no support, no place to go. When you build yourself first, love becomes a choice, not a cage. You learn that independence isn't loneliness. It's insurance against manipulation. Because when you have your own home, your own money, your own voice, no one can ever again make you beg for your own freedom. Leaving isn't a story of failure. It is a story of awakening the moment you stop being someone's reflection and start being your own light. Freedom, when it first arrives, is not triumphant. It is fragile, uneven. It doesn't feel like the roaring sunrise you imagined. It feels like walking barefoot after years in tight shoes. Every step both hurts and heals. Clara learned that truth in the quiet months after leaving Nathan. She had escaped the cage. Yes, but the cage had left its shadow inside her. In the first weeks, she kept expecting him to appear, not in person, but in her thoughts, his voice correcting her tone, his sigh filling her silences. Even when she made a decision, she heard him whisper, asterisk, that's not smart. Asterisk, the echo of control outlasts the controller. She realized that freedom doesn't begin the day you walk out. It begins the day you stop defending your abuser in your own head. That's the essence of psychological recovery. Asterisk, asterisk, unlearning permission. Asterisk, asterisk. She practiced small rebellions, leaving dishes in the sink, spending money without guilt, singing while she cooked. Simple acts, almost silly. But every unpoliced moment was an exorcism. Healing is not dramatic. It's domestic. It's the sound of someone laughing in a space that used to be silent. Yet some nights, loneliness crept in like fog. She would scroll through old photos, the trips, the dinners, the smiles that had felt real in their moment. Part of her missed, not Nathan, but asterisk, asterisk, the person she had been allowed to be in his good moods. Asterisk, asterisk. That's the cruel truth about trauma bonds. You mourn the fantasy, not the reality. The dream of love that almost existed, and so she wrote it down. All of it. Every lie. Every I'm sorry. Every time she'd convinced herself he was changing. The page became her confessional, her witness, her closure. One night, she burned the last entry and watched the ashes curl like wings. It wasn't magic, but it was enough. Gradually, the emptiness turned into space, and in that space, new things began to grow. She reconnected with Camille. They laughed until they cried, retelling stories from the before. She started painting again, something Nathan had once called a waste of time. Her art wasn't perfect. It was messy, raw, alive. It looked like her. She began volunteering at a women's support group. The first time she spoke her story aloud, her voice trembled, but she finished it. And when another woman whispered afterward, asterisk, you just told my story. Asterisk, Clara realized something profound. Asterisk, asterisk, healing multiplies when it's shared. Asterisk, asterisk. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was translating pain into purpose. Months later, someone new entered her life. Not a rescuer, a listener. He didn't rush her, didn't demand access to her wounds. He just sat with her silences. When she laughed, he didn't claim credit. At first, it scared her. Kindness felt suspicious. Peace felt like emptiness. But slowly, she began to understand. Love isn't meant to make your heart race. It's meant to let it rest. She learned that real intimacy has no spectators, no scorecards, no invisible debts. It's quiet, steady, mutual, and it asks nothing of you except truth. Society loves the story of the broken woman who becomes strong. But Clara discovered that strength is not the absence of pain, it's the refusal to make a home in it. She no longer glorified resilience. She didn't want to be strong all the time. She wanted to be soft, open, human, and safe enough to stay that way, because true healing isn't about building armor. It's about finally feeling safe enough to take it off. In the years that followed, Clara stopped telling her story with bitterness. She spoke of it with clarity, not to warn, but to illuminate. She understood now that life doesn't return to what it was before. It becomes something new, not pure, but authentic. Scars don't disappear. They just change meaning. Once, they were proof of her pain. Now, they were proof of her survival. This is the ninth hidden benefit of not marrying too early. You give yourself the chance to build an identity before love defines it. When you know who you are, love can enrich you, not erase you. You can tell the difference between care and control, apology and manipulation, intensity and intimacy. You can love without disappearing because you've already met yourself. And once you've met yourself, you never again confuse a cage for home. Clara once believed freedom was the opposite of love. Now she knows they are the same thing. Both require honesty. Both demand courage. She stands on the same bridge where her story began, this time under her own light. The city hums. The night is quiet. There is no suitcase beside her, just the weightless certainty of self. She whispers into the wind, is greater than, I am not what happened to me. I am what I chose after. And for the first time, the air doesn't feel cold. It feels like time's belonging.